That looks doable. Thank you for putting that together last second. Like I said, I should have done it myself, but I really thought it would take more than 4 hours to do this. I thought I'd be splitting it up. Let's see. Okay, we'll start with the ones I didn't play. I think those are just the easiest ones to knock out. So from Red, it was Pieces. I had Pieces on the maybe list. I first of all really appreciate the theme, sticking with the "Can you throw my piece up there" from last year. And I appreciated the idea of this being a quick one, because it was only like 9 levels or 10 levels or whatever. But just out of all the Red games, I had not played any of the games on the Red list. So last year I tried to skip games that were things I had played before, because there was like one in each category that I had played, but it didn't really work out like that this year. So Pieces, just, it looked like the thing that I would probably enjoy the least. But between that and Monster House, I was gonna, like, without knowing how long Monster House took, just knowing it was a GameCube game and probably longer, my thought was, I would just kind of leave it towards the end of the month, and if I started running out of time, Pieces was probably be shorter, and so I would lean towards that, but ended up having plenty of time. So Pieces was on the chopping block. Blue category, that's Sub-Zero. That's easy. As Rio noted in the reveal stream, it was Sub-Zero's on my bottom 5 of the year that we played it, which is many years ago at this point. I don't think it's my least favorite N64 game. I think Earthworm Jim is solidly in there, and Monster Truck at least gives it a run for its money. But Sub-Zero is definitely still down there. It's definitely bottom like 3 at best. That being said, I am glad it was in the event for a couple of reasons. A, just it was cool to see other people be forced to experience it. Both you and Cinny making it through, which was awesome. But also it adds an interesting wrinkle to the meta of like being able to choose whichever like game you want to strike from each category. If you put like one guaranteed bomb in there, it really does sort of tip the scales a little bit, which is interesting. I like just overall Gamerade. I like the how you can customize it for your own tastes within a category, you know, to a point. And so that kind of tipping the scales a little bit was interesting to see that play out. But really, that game's awful. It's just so bad. And then Yellow. What did I not play from Yellow? Rivet King. I watched this was like one of the first games Shoehorse played, and it looked like the kind of game that if I booted it up for the first like hour or so, I'd be like, yeah, this is pretty fun. But then there were like 5 more hours to go, and I felt like it would have really worn on me by the end. So I was, this was initially in my list of games to play, but ended up swapping it out for Super Auto Pets, and did not regret that choice at all. From a time perspective, at the very least. And then we'll just go through them in order as they're listed here. So first one was James Bond. I had James Bond as a kid. I've played this game many times and like it a lot. I think for me it's an A. It's not perfect by any stretch. In fact, I think I like both of the N64 Bonds more than it, but I think it's still very solid. I like the driving sections and the rail shooters just being like changes of pace from the typical Bond gameplay. I think you're finally in this game, you're finally at a point where like the gadgets get a little more involved. Not a ton, but like with the grapple and stuff, it's like more than like in GoldenEye, gadgets are just like you select them from your inventory and point them at the thing and press the button. In the world is not enough. It's basically the same thing. The grapple watch like will deploy a string for you to climb up or whatever, but like this game, like, you know, you get a little more interactivity. You get the jetpack, which is cool. I do think enemies are just too bullet spongy. It really wants you to aim for the heads, especially in the later missions, but like the control scheme doesn't really allow you to do that easily, so I don't know, it lives in kind of a weird place, but overall I think it's a very fun game. Also, we didn't touch the multiplayer, but the multiplayer, as you would expect from a Bond game, is a good time. Next up is Castlevania. Kind of like it, Sub-Zero was spoiled as a bottom 5 game for me. Castlevania was a top 5 game for me back when we played it for Discord Wars a few years ago. And it was a great one to open the event with because it's still a lot of fun. I haven't played it since then. It's been like 4 years or whatever, but it's just great. It's just great. The souls are really fun. They're rare enough that you're not going to get the exact same ones every time, but they're common enough that you will get some. And so like sort of planning how you play based on what you get is a very fun mechanic. There's also a ton of like weapons hidden. Aryasara does a really good job of making you get those like periodic upgrades and feeling like they're impactful, because every sword that you get that's like an upgrade, like you do more damage instantly. Whereas in some of the other like similar era Metroidvanias, Castlevanias, like Circle of the Moon I just played that. That's like one of the first GBA ones, and all you have is the whip the whole time, and like you get more powerful, but you don't get that variety of weapons where some of them swing faster and some of them have more range or whatever. So like not having that variety hurts it. And then on the other end, the sequel to this, Dawn of Sorrow, like all the upgrades are tied to souls and specific souls, so you're just upgrading your weapons much less often. I think this game like strikes that balance really well, where you're like constantly getting more items and more powerful, and it's good. It's good. Highly recommend. Even if you haven't like played Metroidvanias, I think this was one of Shoot Horse's first, if not his first, Metroidvania, and he seemed to enjoy it. It's just good. It's a great game. Next we got Gunstar. Not sure about Gunstar. It was fun. It was short. I think I'm gonna sit it in D for right now and talk it out and see how I feel at the end of it. It was not a bad game. There was nothing about it that I was like, I'm not enjoying this, but also I think playing on easy just sort of made it a breezy cakewalk. It was like barely an hour, if that. Not even. It was just under an hour. I think I died on like the final boss rush one time, maybe twice, and that was it. So not that the game needs to be challenging, but I think in the end it just sort of blended into the background because it was so fast and so easy. This is Hotline Miami 2 Sexualizer. Actually, I think I have this on this layout that I can pull up. Maybe? Oh, it's below Firefox. Hold please. Of course. But yeah, I think I'm fine with Gunstar and B. It was fun. I thought the weapons were cool. You know, it has the two different characters who I would assume play a little bit differently, maybe, or have different abilities or something. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a reskin. I think I know that like medium seemed like it was, because that was what Shoehorse was initially playing on, was like, oh no, this might be a problem, and so it got bumped down. Probably the right call. Again, you know, there are a couple of hard games in this list. You don't need like people, when you're trying to beat 10 games, you don't need people like grinding out each one forever. No, I think I'm happy with that MB. That makes sense to me. It was fun. I would be interested in playing more games in that series, because this was my first Gunstar game, and I know there are a few more. Super Mario Land, probably a C. Again, it was not a bad game either. But the platforming, just the controls are a little bit jank. The run button seemed like it made your character just play worse, always. You would like run off of ledges and drop instantly. I think once I figured that out about halfway through and just stopped pressing the run button, I think I started playing much better. It also has hard game overs, which I really hate. I know you can earn continues. And I mean, even like the second time through, I didn't come close to needing them. I don't think. Maybe I came a little close. I think I got lucky with some of the in-game bonuses. So, you know, it's not bad. It's you know, you want to be a little less harsh because it's an early Game Boy game and they're just trying to figure that out, but I don't know, it didn't really do it for me either. I do think some of the enemies were cool. I thought some of the enemies were terrifying. Some of those like janky moving Maui heads or whatever. The auto-scroller levels, both the plane and the sub, were actually pretty fun. I thought those were like good changes of pace. But overall, this was probably one of the weaker games I played, I think. Yeah, next up is Monster House. Monster House, I think this is an A for me as well. I really enjoyed it. I didn't know anything about it going in, other than Rio said, I think you'll probably like it. And he was right. Knew that it was, I guess I knew that it was like supposed to be sort of Resident Evil-y. And it was a movie tie-in, but it was a movie I hadn't seen. But I thought it was really neat. I thought the exploring the house, so you had 3 different kids, and each of them had similar loadouts, but everybody had like a unique special weapon, and then their weapons, they all had water guns, but like one of them was a shotgun, one of them was rapid fire, one of them had like a big stream you could put out, so like they played a little bit differently. But the biggest thing was they were all on sort of their own unique paths through the same environment. So like you'd come to a room that you had been in with another kid, but you could use that secondary ability from your new kid to like open a door that you couldn't get into before. So it led to this like, even though there was no like overall map that you were using like you would find in a Resident Evil game or something, like it led to this really interconnected feeling. Really like smart level design that like made you just be like constantly like, oh, I recognize this, I know where I am, even though you're in like an unfamiliar house. It was cool. It was cool. I think the back half of the game suffered a little bit as you get into like just much more combat heavy. The combat was fine, but I don't think it was like particularly good enough to carry the game, or it wasn't as good as the exploration, I think. And so like you get to like the escape chapter where it's just fight after fight after fight after fight, and it kind of wore thin. But even still, the game wasn't too long. It was about 3 hours. But yeah, it was very good. Very interested in actually going to watch the movie at some point. Yeah. right, next is Power Quest. This was the big game of the event for me, for sure. It was over 7 hours all told. 7 hours, 15 minutes-ish, and I made it to the final boss in about an hour and 15 minutes. So, it's a tale of two games. So, I really like Power Quest. I do. I think so going all the way back, I've said this a couple of times on stream, but I'd heard of the game before. I'd seen like ads for it or the box art or something as a kid, and was like, oh, like customizable robots. That sounds really cool. Never played it. Forgot about it for years until it was announced for Gamerade. And so I was excited to play it, but also at the same time, when I heard the words Game Boy Color fighting game, like huge red flags went off in my brain. But it really does work for a fighting game that has 2 buttons. Like, it functions, it does what it's supposed to. It's not like intricate or complex or anything. But it's got 5 characters, 6, but one of them is like multiplayer only. They're all a little bit different. I think Max and Axe are similar, the most similar, I think. But then you've got like the big bruiser who throws. You've got the fast character. You've got Lon who does like the special moves. Like, it's got unique characters. They've all got a handful of specials. It's like, it works pretty well. It's also, it's fast-paced because the rounds are best of 1, so even though the game itself is like a lot of grinding, it's like 60 fights or something to get to the end, it doesn't take that long, because you're just like constantly knocking them out. It also, I give it bonus points because it has maybe the funniest interaction I've ever seen in a fighting game of, if you're in the corner, you never want to be in the corner, right? Because you're just like stuck and your opponent can wail on you. But if you're in the corner and you're holding back to block, you can throw the opponent by holding back and pressing A, even though throw is forward in A. If you hold back, press A, you can throw, and it throws in the direction that you're holding. So you grab them, turn them around, put them in the corner, and suddenly you have the advantage and have done tons of damage to it. It's really, really funny. Every time it happened, I was dying. But then you get to the final boss, and the final boss, like, it's a tournament. You have to fight 3 people first, and it's the 3 bosses of the previous tournaments, which is a cool like callback. And if you lose to any of them, you have to go back to the start, which you would expect. You also keep your damage. You like heal a little bit in between fights, but it's not much. It's like a quarter of your health maybe. And then, but all that's fine. They're still pretty, they get like a little bit tougher, but you can beat them. They're cheesable, you know. The last guy, the third guy will just turn on his good every once in a while and beat you. But then you have the Don. And the Don is this guy in an orange luchador mask, and it's always a mirror match. Whoever you are picking, he will pick that character, and he will just destroy your spirit. He reacts, he reads your inputs, he reacts immediately. So if you're ever in like throwing range, he will just frame 1 grab you. So at first I was using the big grappler guy, Gong, and I would like jump in and then throw people and do tons of damage. If you ever get into throwing range, he's just grabbing you first. Frame 1, react. So that strategy went out the window, so I switched to Axe. And Axe has a slide kick that's pretty spammable. You can use it on the first 3 guys in that last tournament, and like a lot of times the computer doesn't block on get up, so you knock them. If you slide at them, it knocks them down instantly. They get back up, you slide again, repeat. But for this, because it's a mirror, he'll use a move that has advantage over your slide priority, and it'll knock you out of your slide every time, so you can't slide against him. So he basically, every cheese that I found in the game, he would counter it. And he stuns you very quickly. I think you could take 1 combo and be safe, but the second combo would stun you, and then he would use super and kill you. and it's one round. So like you get to him and he could just knock you out in like 15 seconds and you're back to the start. So it definitely was demoralizing. But at the same time, like every day I would like quit. I did it over the course of like 3 streams, and every time I cut stream, it was just because like my mental was shattered and I was like feeling terrible about myself. I was like, I can't do this. There's no way I can ever win. But then the next day I'd be at work or whatever and be like, oh, I can't wait. I got to get back home and beat this guy. So I don't know. I think to me, I'm putting Power Quest in an A. I would put it in an S because I love the game, but like the Dawn fight is absolutely terrible. I think in a world where even if so, the other part of really the worst part of the Dawn fight is there's this huge block of dialogue that you have to like mash through every time, and you can't skip it. And you have to you fight your way through these 3 cheesable fights, and then you mash through all this dialogue, and then you just die in 10 seconds. So if you could skip cutscenes, it's probably an S, honestly. And I probably beat it in like 4 hours instead of 7 hours. But as it stands, I really like Power Quest. It's even crossed my mind to go back to it and try to speedrun it, but there's just no consistency. Like, even the speedrunners don't have a consistent strat against Dawn. So I don't know. It is fun, though. It is fun. Also, when I was looking up information about the game, I saw that there was somebody ran a tournament of Power Quest at Combo Breaker, which is like a fighting game tournament for a bunch of different fighting games, like 5 years ago or something. So there's some footage online on YouTube from the tournament. There's no commentary, sadly, but I thought that was still really fun to see. You know, almost certainly people who were just there for other games and were like, oh, what's this Game Boy fighting game? Let's stop in and play it. But that was pretty cool. Okay. I talked a lot about that one, but that was certainly the game of the event for me. A lot of thoughts about Power Quest. So we'll get through the rest of these. Rugrats. I had very low expectations of this based on the first Rugrats game that we played in N64 Mania, which was not good. I would also say this one like wasn't great, but it was fine. I think I would probably put it in a B. It's like halfway between a B and a C, I think. But I mean, I think it really just depended on which mini games you got. Cause like I skipped baseball, but from what I heard, baseball was really bad. But like bumper cars were fun. I think like I ran into I did not enjoy skee ball, but I just bailed. Actually, that's fair, right? Big bonus points for being a collectathon where it's a relatively low amount of things you had to collect. Why is this so quiet? Yeah, I think it's a B. Searching for Reptar at the end, the fact that you get a Reptar helmet and you have to go to Reptar, but it's not the giant Reptar that's right there in the middle of the park, that's kind of messed up. And then the end fight, for how easy the rest of the game was, the final boss is absolutely not free. You like almost are forced to cheese it a little bit, because if you try to DPS race it, you will lose every time. Yeah, I think it's a good B. It's kind of average, not fantastic, but not terrible, and you know, a couple bonus points there. Definitely, I will say it surpassed my expectations for sure. All right, next, Super Auto Pets. So like I said, I was planning to skip Super Auto Pets. I was planning to play Ribbit King at the start of the event. If you go back to my pod for Castlevania, Ribbit King is in there with like a bunch of question marks because Shores was like still playing it when we started Castlevania. But I ended up going for Super Auto Pets instead, under assurances that it was an easy, quick goal, and it was. It only took a couple hours, even though I'd never played before. And I thought it was pretty fun. It's a lot jumping into as a brand new beginner. There's a ton of interactions and abilities and like trying to keep track of even what just your stuff does, much less everybody else's. Was very overwhelming. I definitely was just found myself like staring at the screen, unable to make decisions as I tried to figure out what was going on. But I think it was fun overall. I did kind of fall into the trap. It worked for the goal, but fell into the trap of like I played around, got absolutely obliterated by a strategy of like fed Minotaurs, and so I just went for fed Minotaurs for the rest of the for the rest of it, and it worked. I got a handful of big runs. I think there were a handful of just like medium, like 6 trophy runs or whatever, but I got some 9s and 10s, which was cool. Overall it was fun. I think I would put it in a B. I don't think it was I don't think it's the kind of game that really jives with me. I don't think it's the kind of thing that I would like. I've not gone back to play it since. I don't think I would rush to go back and play it, but you know, I don't think it was bad. I can see the appeal, especially with like the rotating sets and like because it's got all those different interactions. If you know what's going on and you can have like that sense of like building a deck out of what's available to you in a given week or something, I definitely see the appeal there for sure. But yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty good. Simpsons. I don't really know what to do with Simpsons. I didn't mean to do that. Simpsons was a really fun time because we played it co-op. It would have been very cool if you could do more than 2 people on Fightcade. I did feel a little bad that Shoehorse was left on his own. Considering the arcade game is 4 players. But like I said, I think that's just a Fightcade thing. It was good. We talked about it a little bit during the quote-unquote race, the co-op playthrough, that I didn't have like super strong memories of this. Like it was always there in the arcades, but I would gravitate towards the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle machine every time, which is, you know, a very similar game. It's that 4-player beat 'em up. But it was still fun. It's very simple. It's 2 buttons. Also, it's a jump button and an attack button. Definitely helped by the fact that we had infinite continues. I think any sort of beat 'em up with, because beat 'em ups always have like hard game overs, right? So any sort of beat 'em up with like limited lives and hard game overs is very questionable for something like this. But you know, this just made for a fun time of hanging out. I don't know, we either did it on a Saturday or Sunday. I think it was Saturday. Oh yeah, because it was after the N64 sprint race, which, that's fair. This was a good decompress after Clay Fighters and Stick Game just tilted me off the face of the planet. I think I'll put this in B as well. It's a lot of Bs. Well, I mean, it's 4. I think it's a lot of big games in B, whereas there's 3 here. I think I would put this at, like, the game itself is pretty simple, you know, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's more of just it was fun to hang out and play it with friends, and it was a good short length as well. It was under an hour. It was like 40 minutes or something like that, so it was pretty quick. It did not drag on too long for sure. The last boss is very funny. It's got like 12 forms and it's just designed to eat your money, because if you make it there, you are if you make it there in the arcade, you are absolutely in sunk cost fallacy at that point, and so it's just trying to pull a few more quarters out of you to just like give me just a little bit more. Surely this is the last form, right? Uh, which is funny. I think arcade. There's a handful of arcade games like that that are very very blatant about it, and it's kind of silly. Um, yeah, it was a pretty good time. And then last we have Tony. I love Tony. This is obviously the freshest one. We played it today. I don't know if Underground is my favorite. I think it's probably still 4, because that's just the one I had on GameCube growing up and played it again and again and again and again. But Underground is probably my number 2, I would say. It's just good. You know, the story is nothing special, but it's Eric is a really funny villain, and how your character keeps falling for it over and over. And you know, it's got a good arc of like coming from nothing and being an amateur, winning a couple small tournaments and getting sponsored. And all that's good. But then also, it's just unlike the games that sort of followed after it. It is really just about the skating. Like not all of the goals. There's some like driving ones and stuff like that. But for the most part, most of the goals are just skating. And the mechanics of the skating, it's very similar to 4, except it adds the walking, which the walking controls are like a little bit questionable for sure. But they get the job done. And just all like the flatland tricks and stuff, it all feels really good. Sorry, music exploded. I like couldn't pull up the window either. That was really weird. So yeah, for me, Tony is an S. I think I gave it a 5 on my spreadsheet back when I played it for the first time. Like even taking away all of the story stuff and stuff like that, just the skating feels really good. It's definitely the kind of game where you could just go into free skate and jump around and explore the levels, and like even without objectives, like just find your own lines and make big point combos and that kind of thing, which is always really fun. It's what I love most about that series. So yeah, I think that's the list. I feel pretty good about it. Pretty balanced, I would say. You got 2 up top, then 3, and then 4, and then Super Mario Land at a C. This could easily be a B, but it's good to have a little bit of a spread. It looks a little bit lopsided. I just rate out of 5. So I don't think I would have had anything down here unless it was like really, really bad. But even still, I think there was no like real stinker of this event. There was nothing that I was just like dreading. I mean, outside of Sub-Zero, but I chose not to play it. Thanks to the meta of Gamerade. So yeah, this was a really good list. It was a nice mix of a couple of things up here that I had played before, but then a lot of things that I hadn't, and some of those that I really enjoyed. Yeah, if I had played it, I mean, honestly we could leave it there anyways. I think that's fair. Yeah, no, I also wasn't really sure, but I genuinely like the game. I have a big soft spot for games that like have no business being as good as they are, or working as well as they do. It's one of the reasons I really liked Winback on the N64. Like, Winback is a third-person cover shooter with the Nintendo 64 controller. There's no chance that should function, period. But it's like a pretty good game, so I really, really like it. And the same for Power Quest. Like, absolutely should not be good, but for the most part, it is. Outside of Dawn, I would have easily put it in S, I think. But I can't in good conscience put that game in S because anytime one boss takes you like 7 hours of like misery, it's gotta at least lose a point for that. But yeah, it was a good list of games. It was definitely a good list of games. Thank you, as always, Rio, for putting it together. I thought, like I said, it was a good list. It was a good. Didn't talk about it, but the reveal format I thought was kind of cool. I was on my phone in the mountains that weekend, so I only got to participate a little bit, but I thought that was a really fun like little game to sort of get people to guess based off of the clues, or that it's like an existing game, but you know, adapted for Gamerade games was cool. And yeah, I guess that's it. This is kind of the last event for a little bit. We're on the tail end of event season. Allegedly, Discord Wars is, you know, people on the streets are saying it'll come back. I'll believe it when I see it. Funfest is killed, so you know, we'll see. Surely there's something around the corner, right? What's up, Yemo? Mortal Kombat definitely belongs in C tier, for sure. That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I think that's what I got. Thanks for watching. Always fun to play through. I guess I should check. I'm just assuming Shoehorse is still going. Oh, he's very purple. That's exciting. Okay. Let's go watch Shoehorse. He is on one of his last games, at least. But happy Gamerade. And look forward to doing it again, for sure. Y'all take it easy. Have a good weekend if I don't see you. Well, something is in 64 Mania tonight, right? So yeah, I'll be streaming again tonight, probably. We'll see you around. Have a good one.